Welcome to all of you here today, and actually welcome to our folks who are joining us via Zoom as well. Today's discussion, or we're going to do a short presentation, about 20 minutes, and then we'll answer questions about faculty market-based compensation. There's a lot of confusion about how this system works and what the terms mean, and we're going to hopefully clarify the process and how it works. Let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to first talk about the salary model, the history, the operation of it, and the philosophy. And then we're going to look at some actual examples of how target salaries are calculated. Then we're going to talk about the fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19 raises. Those are the raises that went through last year. And we'll show you the new portal in VandalWeb that's opening tomorrow, where faculty can go in and they can see their actual salary and the market salary and the details of how their target salary is calculated. And then we'll talk about changes for next year and answer questions. So Patrick is going to do the first section about the model itself.
Thank you very much, Tori. So I want to start by reminding ourselves why we're here. In the fall of 2015, President Staben announced the goal to increase employee salaries to 100% of market on average. That does not mean that, by average by 2025, I should mention. That does not mean that every employee will command market rate. Some employees will be below market, some employees will be at market, and some will be above market. Together with this goal came a charge to develop a market-based compensation system that's data-driven and objective and transparent. So in response, Faculty Senate established the Staff Compensation Task Force and the Faculty Compensation Task Force in 2016. The Faculty Compensation Task Force met throughout 2016 and 2017 15 times to define our peer group, our market, to select suitable salary databases, and to draft guiding principles for this compensation model. I was co-chair of the compensation task force. We handed off these recommendations to the provost's office, who adopted these guidelines to make them practical for an institution-wide deployment. As you will recall, in January of 2018, we had mid-year salary increases, and they were deployed in accordance with this model. Kim will go into details about that. In July of 2018, we deployed CEC funds in accordance with this model. Again, Kim will detail this. This year, 2018-19, we have worked on further refining the compensation model. Faculty Affairs Committee has been working on developing guidelines for how to award performance raises. A group of deans and faculty compensation task force members worked on evaluating our current promotion raise practices and see if they needed any form of adjustment. And then finally, we have been working on developing the VandalWeb portal that will launch tomorrow, where faculty members will be able to see their individualized or personalized target salaries, which is different from market rates. So speaking to the model, we defined our peer group, our market, as all US public and private doctorate granting institutions, so including R1, R2, and R3 institutions according to the Carnegie classification. We also selected a database, our primary database, to identify market rates. Will be coming from the Coupa HR salary database, and the market rate for a particular discipline will be defined as the average salary listed in Coupa HR. In some cases, there will be a need to utilize alternative data sources beyond Coupa HR. Those will be, for example, the Oklahoma State University survey and data pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's, in some cases, there are not a sufficient number of data points in Coupa HR, so we'll look to alternative sources. Coupa HR is a very nice database. It's a comprehensive all-in-one database that lists market rates or salary information in general according to CIP code, so discipline, according to academic rank, so for example, assistant, associate, full professor, and according to tenure status, whether faculty are tenure track or tenured, or if they are non-tenure track. So it's a very useful database to be utilizing on an institution-wide basis. That's what I wanted to say here. The market salaries are available from the Provost's website. Our goal is to be as transparent as possible, no secrets, so the information is listed on the Provost website. There are a couple of cases where we can't utilize the Coupa HR salary database as such, simply because of lack of data points. So a couple of groups of faculty where this is the case were instructors and senior instructors. There were not sufficient number of data points for individual disciplines for these ranks to allow us to utilize that salary information in a meaningful manner. So instead, what we did, we looked at how do instructor salaries in general track relative to a large cohort, and that cohort was identified as being associate professors. So market rates for instructors are going to be, are defined as 65% of the market rate for an associate professor in that particular discipline. Similarly, senior instructors will be tracked at 70% of the market rate for an associate professor in that particular discipline. And non-tenure track faculty will be have been tracked at 85% of the market rate of a corresponding tenure track faculty member in that particular discipline. We have carried out some additional analysis that suggests that a more precise tracking of these market rates for non-tenure track faculty members is probably 90% of the market rate for tenure track faculty members. So that's what we'll be doing going forward. Here you see a little snippet of the market salary information that is available via the Provost's website. On the far left, you can see a 4-digit CIP code. That is the discipline, the numerical designation for a discipline, along with a title of that particular discipline. And then you can see columns depicting the market rate for instructors, senior instructors, assistant, associate, and full professors. Distinguished professors are the same as full professors in this context. All this data is available from the Provost website. Okay, so that was a discussion of market rates, where we get market rates from. We will be calculating target salaries for each and individual faculty member. As I said initially, not every faculty member will be at market rate. There are individual factors that will position a faculty member at a given percentage relative to the market rate. For a quick example, full professors vary from newly promoted full professors to full professors who have been in this rank for 30 years. And clearly, that there ought to be an expectation of a different target salary. The factors that go into the calculation, that go into calculating an individual faculty member's target salary are first and foremost the market salary, which is dependent on a particular discipline, a particular CIP code. That is dependent on their rank, that is dependent on their tenure status. Are they tenure track or are they non-tenure track? And then in our calculation, we'll be also looking to a longevity factor. How many years of satisfactory performance in rank does this particular faculty member have? And that will be a factor that influences the target salary calculation. In addition, of course, a target salary will also depend on the fact whether or not a faculty member is appointed by academic year or by fiscal year, and whether or not they're a full-time faculty member or part-time faculty member. Very importantly is the fact that the target salary calculation does not attempt to parameterize a performance component. We're thinking of this as two different buckets of money, if you will, of funds, if you will. A calculation that determines the target salary, and then there will be funds available for performance-based pay that will be essentially on top of that. That's the idea. So I want to stress that the target salary calculation does not include a performance component. Here is listed the longevity table that we have developed for the different ranks. So on your left, you see years in rank, years of satisfactory performance in this particular rank. It goes from 0 to 17, and then broken down by the different ranks. And you can see, for example, instructors and senior instructors, their target salary, assuming that their academic year appointment and full-time faculty members, their target salary would turn out to be 100% of market rate. It would be market salary. We're bringing them in at 100%. The decision to do so was a realization that in order to be competitive for instructors and senior instructors, we need to bring these folks in as absolutely close to the market as possible. A similar philosophy was guiding the target salary, the longevity factor for incoming assistant professors. We calculate their target salary as 90% of the market, trying to bring them, competing for talent. We want to be as close to the market rate for assistant professors as absolutely possible. You will note that after 3 years of satisfactory performance in rank, the longevity factor for assistant professors jumps to 100%. This is to encourage timely career progression, i.e. following a successful third-year review, they would see an increase in their calculated target salary to essentially 100% of an assistant professor market rate in that discipline. Associate professors start at 95% of associate professor market rate in that particular discipline and progress 1 percentage point per year until the first opportunity for promotion to full professor. So again, we want to encourage timely career progression, encourage these faculty members to seek promotion to full professor. As you can see, the longevity factor plateaus after that. Professors, full professors, begin at 83% of the market rate for full professors in a particular discipline and progress 1 percentage point per year until reaching a maximum, until their target salary reaches market rate after 17 years in rank. We have received feedback about this and done some further analysis, and will actually accelerate this longevity progression for full professors. So it'll take 11 years to reach market rate in this calculation. So, as I've already alluded to, the longevity table was designed to to maximize our ability to recruit faculty members, to recruit talent. So by having target salaries that are close to market rates, especially for instructors, senior instructors, and assistant professors. The model has been developed to reward timely career progression, as we spoke about. And also the numbers have been chosen to mimic the increases that one observes upon promotion. So if I go back here to this slide here, the jump from 100% of market rate for assistant professors to 95% of the market rate for associate professors in a particular discipline, that is actually a jump up in salary. And the jump up in calculated salary would be, on average, across disciplines, similar to our current promotion practices, which are, I believe, $6,000 for an academic year appointed faculty member upon promotion from assistant to associate, and $8,500 upon promotion from associate to full professor. So that's also how we came up with the 83% for full professors, the starting point for full professors being 83% of the market rate for full professor salaries, because that jump, that calculated jump, reflects our current promotion practices. Okay, so with that, I think I'm handing it off to Tori again.
Thanks, Patrick. Patrick and his committee did a huge amount of work last year to develop this. I'm going to run through some examples so you can actually see the calculations, and this is similar to what will be visible in VandelWeb. There are 6 in our presentation, which we will put on the web shortly. I'm going to show you 2 because they kind of, I think, encapsulate a number of different scenarios. The first one's very simple. So in the first one, you'll see the top table is one line out of that market-based salary table that Patrick showed a little bit ago. And you'll see this is for a SIP code 5100. The discipline is general health. That's the discipline of the faculty member. And then you can see across that top all of the different market salaries for the different ranks. And this example that we've created is an assistant professor, so you can see the market rate for that is $80,000. So we start with the market, and again, that's the average. That's the first-year assistant professor, first-year assistant professor, as well as the fifth-year assistant professor across all institutions. That's the average. Then we have a longevity component, the table that Patrick just showed you. 2 years, assistant professor, the longevity component is 90%. Then their tenure track, which it's all set up on tenure track, so it's at 100%. Then the academic year is 100% because that's the way the system is based, and this person is full-time. So you take 90% times the $80,000, and you get a target salary for this second-year assistant professor of $72,000. So you'll see the target is lower than the market, which is very common. And I think this is where some of the confusion is that people see the market, and that's a bigger difference from where they are in many cases. And what we're shooting for is that target salary. So that's a very simple example. I'm going to skip forward to another example that has everything, that every multiplier included. So this one's far more complicated. Here is an associate professor, and they're a research professor. Now we have research professors on our campus who are tenured, and we have some who are non-tenure track. This one is non-tenure track. So you'll see in we come out of the first table at the top, the market is 90,000. They've been here 3 years, so their longevity component is 98%. That comes off of that table. They are non-tenure track. That's the 85% multiplier that Patrick mentioned. Going forward in future years, we're going to use 90% for that. They are on a fiscal year contract. They're on a 12-month contract, which we see some of in our university, and many people also on 9-month contracts. The multiplier for a 12-month contract is 11/9, so that's calculated. And then this person is part-time. They're 0.75, so maybe that's because of a grant that helped fund this position. It could be for a variety of reasons, but 75% FTE. So when you take 90,000 and you go through all those multipliers, you end up with a target salary of $68,722.50. So that is how we get to target salaries. And target salaries are really the numbers that we use to look at individuals. Market is really the number used for the discipline, but not for individuals. Then we look at each person's case, their current situation, and we find a target salary. So those are just a couple examples of how we calculate those, and then we'll also see that example when we show you the VandeWeb portal that will open tomorrow. So Kim is going to walk us through the raises that happened during the 2017, 18, and 18, 19 years.
So last year, in fiscal year 18, we had two sets of raises that went through. The first one happened at mid-year, and it went into effect January 1st of 2018. And we received special permission to do this mid-year salary increase. And since it is outside of the normal CEC cycle, which starts July 1st, we were told it could not include merit at all. It had to be based on our market salaries, target salaries only. So that's why you'll see there's no increase for merit in here. So again, it's based solely on target salaries, and all of the faculty's target and market salaries were calculated, and it was compared with their base salary. If their base salary was less than their target salary, then they were able to get an increase. The increases were given out on a sliding scale, so those who are furthest away from their targets got a larger percentage increase than those closer to their targets. They got a smaller percent increase. And anyone who was at target or above their target did not get a mid-year increase. And again, that was because there was no performance tied to this at all. So it was just bringing people closer to target salaries. The next cycle that we had, we started working on that as soon as we had done the mid-year cycle, is our regular fiscal year 19 CEC salary increase. And this went into effect July 1st, 2018. This is a normal cycle, so we were able to include performance or merit increases in this cycle. The increases in this cycle reflect the change in the market rates from FY18 to FY19. So we weren't just looking at people's target salaries, we were also looking at if the market rate in their zip code and rank had gone up. We tried to keep up with as much of the market rate change as we could. And between the two cycles, the mid-year and the FY19, we were able to keep up with a little over 98% of the change in market. So if someone saw a 2% increase in the market for their zip code, we kept up with 98% of the 2% increase. So I think that was a very good thing for faculty. Another thing we did during the fiscal year 19 increase was to bring all faculty members who had satisfactory performance up to 80% of their target salary. So this isn't 80% of their market salary, but it is target. So this was targeted at the people who are the furthest behind their target salaries. And that was to increase the floor, basically, in the faculty market salaries or target salaries. After those two things, keeping up with the market and bringing people to a minimum of 80%, colleges were given discretion. They were each given a pool of gen ed funding, and that could be used for performance and for either keeping up with the target and market salaries or for addressing issues like equity, inversion, and compression. There were quite a few colleges that chose to do the remaining 2% that we didn't do as an institution, so that those colleges kept up with 100% of the market changes. And that really depended on what the college leadership thought was important in their area. Other areas had large inversion going on in some departments, and so they wanted to use their funding to do that. And as long as they turned in a plan that was reviewed and approved, then we allowed them to do that. So the impact of these two, the mid-year, just looking at market salaries for FY18, because that's what we used at the mid-year cycle, faculty salaries on average went from 89.6% of market to 90.8% of market rates. 559 faculty, a little over 65% of faculty received increases that went into effect last January. Then at the July 1st, the FY19 CEC increase, on average, faculty salaries moved from 90% to 93.3%. And this was looking at FY19 market rates. The new rates come out in February. So like right now, we're going to be using FY20 rates for the increase cycle that's coming up. At that July 1st date, 728 faculty saw increases in the CEC process. Next, we're going to show you something that's going live in VandalWeb tomorrow. And this is a salary information that faculty are going to be able to go in and see their market and target calculations. So I'll turn it over to Patrick for this.
Yes, so we're excited about the ability to launch this web-based portal so faculty members can see their individualized target salaries. Staff have, of course, already have access to such a site for a year, I believe, almost, and we believe that launching this site will help reduce some of the confusion that faculty members may have regarding their salaries and how they're calculated. So, as mentioned, the site is scheduled to launch tomorrow, and you will be logging into the VandalWeb, and then you'll click on Employees, Employee Information, and then Target Annual Pay as highlighted in yellow on the screen. And as you do this, you will be met with a screen that looks somewhat similar to this. This is my salary information with a couple of redactions. Very minimalistic design, which hopefully will convey the key information in a clear manner. In the upper left, which you can't see, which has been redacted, you would see your Vandal number, then followed by name, your PCN number, your position number, what type of faculty you are, regular faculty, research, clinical faculty, and then rank. So I'm a full professor, regular faculty member. And then in the white box on the left, you would have listed your current annual pay. In the middle, you would have your progress towards target salary. So essentially comparing the current annual pay relative to the calculated target salary given as a percentage. And then on the right in this line, your target salary is listed. Below is the calculation, how we reach this calculated number for target salary. On the first line, the market rate will be listed. And you can see the market rate for a professor in chemistry is $116,000 and something. So on that first line, the market rate is listed along with your discipline. The number in the parentheses, that's the CIP code, the code for Chemistry General, 4005. Next line, so now we move down through the calculation. My calculation is relatively simple because I'm a full-time employee, I'm academic year appointed. The only factor really counting in towards calculating my target salary is the longevity factor. I have 2 years of satisfactory performance in the rank of full professor of chemistry, so that gave for FY18 and FY19 a longevity factor of 85%. That would be multiplied with the market rate for a full professor in chemistry. Which after rounding for use in Banner gives a target salary of $98,888.40. So, and this will of course vary from faculty member to faculty member, but hopefully this will help clarify how the calculated target salary comes about. You will also notice that there are some highlighted words in the calculation. The words market rate highlighted, the number is highlighted, longevity is highlighted, and the word target salary is highlighted. And the idea here is you can hover with the mouse over these terms, and out will come a box that provides a definition of these terms. And we hope that this will help faculty members distinguish complicated terms such as market rate, target rate, help them understand what longevity means. It'll say there are longevity tables available from the Provost website where you can see what that longevity factor is. The CIP code, the number, you can hover and it'll say this is a CIP code, a discipline-specific identifier. So hopefully faculty will find this helpful. In the lower left corner, you can see there's a frequently asked questions link. When you click on that, you will be directed to a document, at the moment document, right? To a document. Later on it might become a website, but a document at the moment where we have compiled an FAQ document where we have tried to anticipate the first 40 questions that faculty members may have to this compensation model. We hope that lots and lots of the concerns, confusion that faculty members may have will be addressed by that document. I think I hand it over to Tori.
This is a good point to point out a couple differences with the staff system, and that the first thing actually is to just acknowledge the staff market-based compensation system and the faculty market-based compensation system are different. They are not the same. They have a lot of similarities, but they are not the same. And one thing that could be confusing when people start looking at this tomorrow is that our numbers that will show up are FY19 numbers, our current contracts. So the numbers this is our actual, this will be truly the current pay. And this will include the target and markets for this year. So we're comparing apples to apples. In the staff system right now, the staff will pull up their current pay and it will pull up their FY20, next year's target. So that could be a little confusing because when a supervisor looks at a summary sheet of all their people, the staff will most likely all be slightly lower if we were to compare apples to apples. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing, but there are some differences in the system. So this is FY19 numbers. And one other small note is that the way this pulls information from Banner, this does not represent accurate numbers for our faculty administrators, such as a department chair, for example, because they have an administrative stipend that is included in their current annual pay, but their market and target is based on just their discipline. So we are not comparing similar things there. And we are going to be in communication with those people to explain that and give them their accurate numbers, but that's the way the information comes out of VandelWeb. Okay, looking forward, improvements for 2019. In the next few weeks, the college offices will be working through the spreadsheets and the requests for how salaries will be changed for next year. Some changes in the system, a few significant ones that I think are all good news. Number one, the longevity table will improve for full professors. Patrick mentioned this, they'll reach 100% in 11 years rather than 17 years. That is good news and follows the data that we have on that. The second point, non-tenure track faculty will be looking at 85% rather than 90. Again, that's data driven and I think a great improvement. The third point, market rates will be based on 3-year averages plus an inflation factor to smooth out large changes. We saw that of course, we didn't see this the first year we looked at this system, but the second year we saw a few of those SIP codes spike, either up or down actually, and to maintain a more steady equitable system, we're going to use a 3-year rolling average for those market rates. And then finally, as we mentioned, the VandelWeb portal so people can get in and see their details. A few resources that are available. If you go to the Provost website, and that address is very simple, uidaho.edu/provost, There's the FAQ, they're there. We have documents on the guidelines and philosophies. We have the salary tables organized by year. We have the longevity tables also within those years, and just a variety of materials available for people to go dig around if they'd like to read more about this and see some of the details. And I'll show you what this looks like. Forgive my many arrows, but the Provost website, the way to find it is to go to the Provost website, and I'm going down the red arrows here. Then there is a tab for faculty processes. Then there is, and one of the sub-tabs there is salary information, and then there's a market-based compensation page. The top yellow arrow, that's the FAQ document. As Patrick said, 41 questions, which we've tried to answer. It's about 8 pages long, hopefully helpful. Then you'll see general information as well as information by year. So you can get in there and really get into the details if you wish. So that concludes the material we have. We'd be happy to answer questions. If you are online via Zoom, if you could use the chat feature, is that correct, Joanna? And Joanna will then share your questions and I'll repeat them so everyone can hear, or live questions from the audience. Go ahead.
As a program head, the numbers I've seen so far about what you think the market value of my potential future hires is worries me. What are the proper avenues to address that?
So you're going to do a search and you feel like the 90% of that market is too low. Is that the concern? More or less, okay. So there is some room for negotiation in those hires. When people put through hiring plans, we are considering requests for people to go above 90, but frankly, it depends on the candidate and the situation and what those numbers are. There have been concerns about that. People say, well, this isn't market. And that's tricky to answer because, I mean, we're looking at hundreds of institutions and we're looking at averages that, I mean, it's kind of hard to say it's not market when that is what those averages are. But you know, we're willing to consider that. Kim, do you want to comment on that at all and how that goes through the system? Not to put you on the spot.
When it comes through people admin and you have someone that you've done a search and you have a person in mind, that action just needs to be sent up to executive approver. And
So it has to be done individual by individual. There's
correct.
no mechanism for changing what we believe somebody in this position should earn based on evidence that this is what they should
For changing the market salary, you mean like the market salary of $90,000 for someone in a given zip code?
We're not talking anything near 90,000.
That was just from the example, sorry. If the market salary for an assistant was, say, $47,000, and that's what's on the table this year, we don't have a mechanism for going in and changing the market salary from the data that we get from Coupa HR. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Unfortunately, I think so. It's making it really hard for me to hire people in the future.
Other questions? Or Joanna, are there any online?
Lodi's got a question.
How is the market?
I'll repeat, okay.
How is the market average calculated? Is it year per year, or is that weighted average? How do you calculate that market average?
So the market average comes straight out of the Coupa data, like for fiscal year 20, when I started on this year, it's the data that we just got in February from Coupa. And then the 3-year average, I took 17, 18, 19, or 18, 19, 20, averaged them together. And then the inflation factor is the average change in salaries overall from FY19 to FY20. So we didn't weight the last year more, but we did do an inflation factor.
Okay, so that's a little bit different than the staff.
It is a little
calculation.
different than the
Okay,
staff,
cool,
which I
thank
think
you.
is weighted
It's
towards the most recent year.
Yeah, it's still the 3 years, but it's weighted where current year counts 3, last year 2, the third year as 1, and then that's all averaged.
Yep,
So a little bit different.
a little bit, yep.
Nothing online?
You say you're going to have this entire stuff going to be on the website?
Yes, the entire presentation, the PowerPoint
Yep.
slides will be on the website. We'll get that up today or tomorrow. Yep.
And the fiscal year 20 market rates are already out there, and the longevity table is already out there.
Janice, what did you say there? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, we should have said that.
Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.